Hello everybody. In this video, we will discuss about a few of the Agile Supply Chain Frameworks. The first framework for discussion is demand sensing and forecasting. Why do you think it is important to accurately sense demand and forecast it so that the system becomes agile? In order that a system is agile, it has to be flexible, it has to accommodate itself to all the changes that are happening. So if and only if we are able to predict the demand of future, if and only if we are able to know what the demand for the commodity is going to be in the future, we'll be able to manage the supply chain accordingly. Suppose there comes an unforeseen demand arising, the demand for the product arises all of a sudden, then that would have a bullwhip effect on the entire supply chain. The entire supply chain would get disturbed because of that. So it's very important that in order to have a system maintained in an agile manner, there is accurate demand sensing and forecasting happening. So, how do we sense and forecast demand? The first technique would be real time data analytics, which is we have to have all the real time data in hand, and analyzing these data for any trends and patterns would be of help. The second is point of sale data analytics. How many units are being sold at any point of time? That would give us a forecast of how the demand is going to be in the future. The third technique would be collaborative forecasting with customers and suppliers. We can work together with customers and suppliers. We can collaborate to forecast what the demand for future is going to be. So, why is agile demand sensing important? First, if we sense the demands accurately, we may be able to reduce stockouts on one hand and excess inventory on the other, both of which are going to be problem to the business. If we go stock out, we may lose the market share. If there's excess inventory, that may lead to a loss to the brand. So it's important that we neither go to a stock out state nor to an excess inventory state. So in order that it happens, an agile demand sensing becomes important. If the demand sensing is done properly, there would be increased customer satisfaction because the customer would get the product whenever they want. There will not be a shortage of product. There will be regular supply and replenishment of products to the customers, which means customer satisfaction would greatly be improved. Uh, Sensing demand would create a better responsiveness to market changes because as we sense demand, we'll also be able to sense any changes in the market that is going to happen. So we, as a brand as such, would be able to become more responsive to these market changes. The next framework is flexible manufacturing and production. So as we all know, agility is about the entire system being flexible and adaptive to changes. So if the entire system has to be, then manufacturing and production will also have to be flexible. We have to manufacture and we have to produce based on the requirements of the customer. When the demand is high, there has to be greater production. When the demand is less, there has to be lesser production. So how do we make the system more flexible? How do we make production and manufacturing more flexible? First is modular production system. These are production systems that are exclusively catered based on the demands of the market. So there's no one formula that applies everywhere. The second is cross-trained workforce. All the workforce should be trained in all the required areas. So there has to be cross-training happening because any contingency that arises in the business, the entire workforce can be made use of. The third strategy for flexibility is lean manufacturing principles. Manufacturing with minimal errors and better quality would again make the entire process be flexible. Why is it important to have a flexible manufacturing system? One, the lead time would be reduced because as we know, we produce based on the demand. So even if this and all of a sudden increase in demand, we would have predicted it before and our production would have been flexible enough to meet the surge in demand. The second is lower production costs. We'll not be producing more when the demand is less. So the production cost there greatly gets reduced. Increased product customization because the entire manufacturing and production system is flexible. There is greater possibility of customizing the product to the needs of the customers. The third framework is dynamic inventory management. Dynamic, as a term, as we all know, is a constantly changing inventory management. So, why is an inventory or why is it that inventory has to be dynamically managed? So in order that a supply chain system is agile, everything that is happening inside the supply chain should be agile. Like all the units of the supply chain have to be flexible and have to be dynamic, and so is inventory management. How do we make the inventory management more dynamic? One is to have just-in-time inventory. Just-in-time inventory is where We ensure all the products reach the customer just in the right time. Second is vendor managed inventory, where the vendor or supplier is entirely responsible for managing the inventory till the product reaches the hands of the customer. Third is consignment inventory. This is an inventory based on the orders that are being placed. Why is it important, or what are the benefits of a dynamic inventory management? One, it helps us reduce carrying costs because, say, for example, if the inventory is going to be managed by the vendor would be responsible for transiting the product from the warehouse to the customer. So the carrying cost does not lie with the manufacturer. Minimized stock outs. When the inventory management is dynamic, it will be closely related to the customers. So there will be a right prediction of customer needs being made. So when the prediction of customer needs is right, then the possibility of having stockouts is also very minimal. The third is improved cash flow. The entire inventory being dynamic, there will be greater cash flow happening. Because there will be more number of players getting involved. There will be less work for each player, making cash flow higher in the process. The next model would be responsive distribution and logistics. So how do we make the distribution system responsive? One is having multi-channel distribution networks that is not entirely relying on one particular distribution network for all the operations. Instead, if the distribution network happens to be multi-channel, that will serve the purpose. The second is cross-docking. Make sure that there's no docking operations happening, like I bring the shipment and I immediately transit it to another vehicle and take it forward. So in that case, I need not to spend much on warehousing. I need not to spend much on docking my product. The third strategy would be expedited shipping options. So here we may give the customer the liberty to choose the shipping option that they want. How is a responsive distribution going to be of benefit? One, order rates would be fulfilled faster. The second, there'd be very much reduction in transportation cost. And the third, the customer service would be enhanced. The last but most important framework is Agile Information Systems. As we've discussed multiple times, there's technology and information systems having a role to play anywhere and everywhere, and so are they in Agile Supply Chain as well. So what are the key features of Agile Information Systems? One, real-time data visibility. Data becomes visible to all the supply chain partners real-time. There are cloud-based platforms where every supply chain partner, every partner in the supply chain, every player of the supply chain would have access to the common data source. Plus, there is integrated supply chain management software that does all the supply chain operations, be it from vendor management to inventory management to the logistics and transportation operations. This one particular software may be able to operate everything. Why is it important to have an agile information system? One is for improved decision making. Two, it enhances the overall collaboration in the process. And three, the supply chain becomes greatly visible to all the partners. So I hope this video would have been helpful to you in understanding all the different supply chain frameworks. So in order to keep a system agile, as we all discussed before, it's very important that we embrace all these practices, we incorporate all these practices into our organization for an organic and sustainable growth and development. Thank you.